Level 989.
Welcome to a 989 on Health Extra. These quick supplements should help ease any withdrawal symptoms you may experience while waiting for our next full episode. So, Mike, what's on today's agenda?
Today we're going to do an off-the-cuff chat about a quick topic. Warning, we have not spent the hours and hours of research that most episodes require. This is just two dudes talking. Good afternoon, Mr. Brandon.
And good afternoon to you, Mr. Mike.
This is an article about poppy seeds, which I primarily think of in connection to muffins. So, of course, poppies are the original source for opium. Now, anytime I have an opportunity to eat a poppy seed muffin, two things occur to me. They're always tasty, and they might make me fail a random drug test. Now, before we get into the article itself, is the failure drug test thing real, or is that an urban legend?
Well, in point of fact, it is indeed real. I believe, for those of our listeners who watch TV, that the Mythbusters even did a segment on the failing a drug test after eating a certain amount of poppy seed. And they definitely found that, I think it was something like one full loaf of poppy seed cake. Well, I can't remember if it was one or two, but after he had consumed it, he definitely failed the opium test.
Really don't see poppy seed muffins much anymore. Last few years, I've definitely seen a lot less of them, I think. I'm not sure why.
I guess I'm not paying enough attention to the muffin world these days.
You know, sir, I love me some muffins.
That is true.
When I want to be bad and deviate from my efforts at healthy eating, a muffin is the first thing I want.
It is a muffin you go for.
A muffin I want. It's moist, it's sweet, it's fruity. I have a nice glass of milk. Good stuff. Now, I read through the article you sent me, but I didn't identify any particularly good quotable sections. So if you have a quick quote or a good summary, now's the time.
I do, but I think we should talk a little bit about the background of the article before I read the little quote. So the reason I had originally sent this article to you is that it was discussing how the poppy seed has a wide variety of really useful and enjoyable content, various minerals that the human body really needs, fiber, that sort of thing. I was comparing it to flaxseed, and I don't know if you remember, but a few years ago, the flaxseed kind of came into the public view as a brilliant source of omega-3 fatty acids and fiber.
There were those superfoods they were talking about?
Yeah, one of the superfoods where you can buy yourself a big container of these flax seeds and then grind them up and add them to almost anything. And it was supposed to be a great source of really positive fats. And that became so popular, I was interested when I found an article suddenly talking about poppy seeds in a similar vein, a similar light. So with that background in mind, here is the quote that I think is particularly useful from the article. A typical serving of poppy seeds contains 2 to 3% of your daily required zinc, which all of your organ systems, especially your immune system, need in varying degrees. That same serving also contains 4% of your daily required calcium and iron, which your body needs to make healthy blood cells and bones. These minerals are also vital for your nervous system's ability to send messages back and forth. Poppy seeds are also rich in B vitamins, which are also important to your whole body. Researchers found that poppy seeds have more antioxidants than flax seeds. They also have 30% more omega-3 fatty acids. Both omega-3 fatty acids and antioxidants have been shown to help prevent cancer and neurodegenerative disorders while also enriching the body holistically. Researchers also found that eating poppy seeds every day has been linked with lowering blood pressure. So it sounds pretty exciting, and we like actionable things, something people could potentially go out and do to improve their health. So when I read this article, I immediately said, well, I bet you people could go out and buy a bag of poppy seeds and start including them into their diet like they did with flaxseed. And I could absolutely see things going that way. It sounds pretty positive. So here's the article giving all of the positive aspects of poppy seeds. But there are some potential risks. And you know me, I like to see things from both sides.
When I was looking into poppy seeds before we started recording, in part it's like, why would you ever put these seeds into your loaf or your muffins or anything? And apparently they do have a flavor, but there's also a thickening agent to them. which might have been why they were initially put in, because they didn't know anything about omega-3 fatty acids back in the day.
Right.
But it was just a little surprising to see they had properties. It wasn't just like, oh, we'll dump some blueberries in, but it actually helps your mixture and your baking. There's like a chemistry component to that. I never knew that was a thing.
Yeah, I guess I never really realized that myself. I guess that would be a good explanation as to why a lemon muffin would have poppy seeds added and help bind it or change the texture.
Ah, because the lemon's going to break it down, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You're much more of a baker than I am, so.
I was trying to do a little bit of reading about the nature of the lemon poppy seed relationship. It seems like more than half the time, if you see poppy seeds in something, you can feel pretty confident that there's going to be lemon involved. I'm still not sure if there is a scientific reason that that's just happens to be the way it works out, or if it's just people have become used to seeing lemon with poppy seeds. I don't know.
Just expect that combination, yeah.
Yeah.
One of the articles that we're talking about poppy seeds looks like there might be a problem with unwashed poppy seeds.
Yep, and that's probably the biggest risk, and the one that is probably bears the most talking about.
Now, wouldn't it just be normally all food things that are prepped by the food companies are all washed and cleaned, and wouldn't that just be standard procedure?
Yes, and for the most part, most of the poppy seeds that you run into out in the wild. So if you're buying that lemon poppy seed muffin, for example, or you're getting a poppy seed bagel, for the most part, those poppy seeds are washed. They are, prepped and ready and cleaned, and it removes a number of the compounds that make a poppy seed dangerous. And I guess at this point bears mentioning for those who don't know, the poppy seed does come from the opium plant. It's an opium poppy. And we use the opium and different chemical versions of opium as a pretty significant painkiller. So eating enough of these poppy seeds, that's the reason it causes you to fail a blood test, is that it's an opioid. It is an opium poppy. So it looks an awful lot like you have some sort of painkiller in your blood system. With the washed poppy seeds, a good majority of the alkaloids that produce the medical effects are washed off. Obviously, with the unwashed version, that's not the case. And in fact, there was a rash of people who were basically brewing up their own opium tea. You would go out and buy unwashed poppy seeds and brew a tea with it, and it acts as a painkiller. Obviously, not a great idea if you don't know dosing or how it's going to affect you. But, patients who are looking for a means to reduce their pain, maybe not super concerned about the science behind using a tea. Plant materials are often thought of as fairly harmless. In the case of the opium poppy, not so much. It does take quite a bit to potentially build up to a fatal level, but even using something like an opium tea a few times in a week can actually cause some risks and some problems for your health if you are using it too frequently or the concentration is too high.
When people think of, has this been washed, they probably imagine, has it had a quick rinse in the sink before I ate it? But I would imagine that when you're processing a food or a drug or a tea product, that washing can be, it must be in this temperature of water, with this much water for this duration. It must be clean water, it must this, I'm sure there's a whole, I don't expect you to know, but it's not just a quick rinse necessarily.
No, it's usually a fairly significant process and often involves a certain amount of heat or a certain type of ingredient that'll help actually wash off certain oils or certain...
Like a solvent or something, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I was just looking at one of the articles I had called up. Researchers found that a hot water wash removes 70% of the morphine content in poppy seeds. So that means all you have to do is thoroughly rinse your poppy seeds with at least 140-degree water, and you'll remove most of its morphine content. So in the case of a washed poppy seed, you are likely seeing, at the very least, a high-temperature rinse before it gets distributed and used for baking.
Yeah.
But even so, even with 70% of the opioid content removed, it can still be a pretty significant dose. You need to be careful. So with all that said, using washed poppy seeds, if you're choosing to supplement your diet, will make things safer, but you still need to be careful with how much you're actually taking in. So great benefits to taking poppy seed, but with caution, as with everything else.
So I would assume that if you wanted to enjoy the benefits of poppy seeds, you would buy the vitamin store version, not the I made it at home version. Because then hopefully it's gone through all its proper processes and checks and balances.
I'm not entirely sure, simply because a lot of the articles are talking about purchasing your own unwashed poppy seeds and using that to create your own foods and your teas and things like that. I don't know if the grocery store or the drugstore poppy seed exists. I honestly haven't looked, which I probably should have after I found this article, but...
The article that we were primarily talking about was from 2018, but I found an article from 2008 talking about the dangers of poppy seed tea.
Mm-hmm.
Probably been a problem for thousands of years, but I've never seen a bag of poppy seeds at the store.
Yeah, me neither.
And I'm kind of surprised that they're available anywhere, especially unwashed.
Mm-hmm.
Just get your morphine here. I can't even get cold medicine without signing for it, but I can just go buy a bag of morphine?
More often than not, plants and plant-based materials are considered harmless. It's a little bit difficult to regulate a food-level product. As a drug, they're very different standards. So I'm guessing that at this point, the poppy seed has kind of been accepted as a necessary evil? I don't know.
As rarely as it's found, I think it could disappear and no one would especially freak out.
Right. That's probably true, but there's so many different products out there that legitimately have at least some medical benefit. At what point do you need to start regulating them? Opium is a potential danger, but it's also a flower and super pretty. I don't know.
My concern would be, even if I make tea myself all the time from various herbs and plants, and I know what I'm doing, but when it comes to organic things, it may depend on the soil it grew in and the pesticides or what was in the ground, that these particular seeds may be stronger or weaker than the other seeds you've done in the past.
Yeah.
You don't know. We're so used now to, we buy something from the pharmacy, it's very consistent and measured and reliable, typically.
Difficult to do that with just food. It's very difficult to do that with just food.
Even if you just grew it in your backyard, it may vary.
Yeah.
If it was extra cold that season, the plant may react differently and create different substances or different amounts, and you just don't know. So it seems like unwashed poppy seeds are just a bad idea, even if you think you're an expert.
Maybe. I'm just thinking in terms of some of the drugs that have been developed as a result of our understanding of opium and the opium poppy. Some of the opioids we have that are, 100, 1,000 times more powerful than the opium poppy. If you could use a less intense product, a less processed product, I would hate to see something that is potentially less damaging in the long run just disappear from the shelves. And how many people are currently buying large amounts of poppy seed and producing their own tea anymore? I don't know. It seems like it must have been a problem in 2008. There are a fair number of articles discussing the dangers of opium tea. A number of online retailers, you can get poppy seed online from them. And from what I understand, they aren't clearly labeled if it's washed or unwashed. So maybe the greater danger is making sure we understand what we're getting as much as possible in the product. And then, as always, educating people to the potential dangers. It's not something, it's not just I'm making a green tea. I'm making something that contains active ingredients that actually could harm me. Making sure that they are clearly labeled and clearly understood so that people aren't just brewing their opium tea in the hopes that they'll have a nice natural painkiller and then finding out, well, I may have just overdosed.
Now, one thing I wonder is, when if there may be some bacteria, you're making your baked goods and you may have some bacteria in there, but it's okay because I'm going to bake it at 350 degrees for 20 minutes, which is going to kill most of the bacteria. But then there are other things like toxins that it doesn't matter if you cook it or not, the toxin's still in there. Mm-hmm. And I have to wonder, if I have my unwashed poppy seeds and I bake it, I don't know that the baking is going to diminish the opiates at all that are in those seeds.
No. Yeah, the concentration would still be equivalent.
Yeah, so it's not like, I baked it, it's fine. It's like,
No, washing those seeds with hot water is going to be one of the few things that's going to reduce the total content of morphine. Just popping it in a muffin and baking it is likely to just mean that the muffin has the high concentration of morphine.
So I guess you should assume that all poppy seeds that you get would be unwashed. Assume they're unwashed and wash them?
Unless they are very, very clearly labeled as washed, processed, poppy seeds. I think that is your safest bet, is to assume they are unwashed and go ahead and wash them in a hot water bath. And at least you've done what you can to try to protect yourself. There are symptoms of morphine overdose that people can probably keep an eye out for if they're making their own products. Cessation of pain. So if you're not feeling any pain, if you're suddenly vomiting, if you're having difficulty breathing, fogginess in your mentation. So you have like a dimness in your thinking process. Even something like feeling like you have a hangover. All of those would be signs to be looking for if you've made your own product and all of a sudden you start feeling, nauseous and you can't breathe well. It may be a morphine overdose and time to go see your local ER.
If you call an ambulance, which I would hope you would they treat you like I've overdosed on heroin, basically? Give me, I think it's Narcan is what it's called, Narcan. So give me some Narcan. Not that you can tell them what to do, but say I may have OD'd on poppy seeds and let them then make their decision.
I would be willing to bet a majority of the people responding would treat you with a little bit of doubt. Hey, I just ate a poppy seed muffin and I've got these symptoms and I think I may be in danger. They're going to look at you like you're crazy. One would hope that they'll do a test and keep an eye on you, and if it is actually morphine poisoning, hopefully they'll be able to respond faster than you could. But I suspect that there will be some doubt involved. Regardless, time to call your ambulance or your local ER if you're experiencing those symptoms.
Is there anything that we missed about the poppy seeds?
I don't think so. I think we covered things pretty well. It really is interesting to me, the health benefits involved with poppy seeds. I have to imagine that for a majority of their history, the pain-killing effects of poppy seeds probably played a larger role in their use than the health benefits of the zinc and the iron and the calcium and the phosphorus and the omega-3 fatty acids. I am absolutely fascinated that poppy seeds are also so surprisingly healthy for you.
I would have to say that based on the dangers, it would just be better to go with flaxseed.
Just avoid the poppy seeds altogether.
If you get lucky and they've been treated just so, then you're fine. It's like eating the poisonous sushi. If it's good, it's amazing. But if they cut it wrong, you're dead. Maybe some other fish. Tuna, how about?
Yeah, I'm reading through a quick article here, and here's a quote that I think is at least mildly useful. The poppy seeds used by cooks come from the beautiful opium poppy, which is the same flower used to produce morphine. Even though the opiate compounds come from a sap-like fluid in the seed pods, all parts of the plant contain a small amount. Every gram of seeds has about 33 micrograms of morphine and 14 micrograms of codeine. That's not enough to cause any ill effects from their use in baked goods, but it is enough to show up as a false positive in drug tests. So as long as you've got those rinsed and processed poppy seeds, it seems like you would really have to eat a lot to get to a toxic level. But eating those unwashed seeds where they've got that sap-like fluid from the seed pod still present, that is definitely a risky business. That's all for now. You can find links to read more about today's topics at level989.com. Why not take a moment to rate or review us in iTunes, or give us a mention on social media? We can't help everyone if they don't know we exist. Don't rely on us as an alternative to medical advice from a professional healthcare provider. For the full disclaimer, please see our website. Thanks for listening, and now, go health yourself.